The small town of Ravenswood was never the same after the tragic death of 12-year-old Emily Wilson, a bright and cheerful student at Ravenswood Elementary. Emily's life was cut short when she fell down the stairs in her school, breaking her neck. The town was shaken, and the school was plagued by strange occurrences. At first, it was just small things. Pencils rolling off desks, lockers creaking open, and the sound of footsteps in empty hallways. But as time passed, the events grew more intense. Students began reporting terrifying encounters with Emily's ghost. She'd appear in their classrooms, her eyes black as coal, her skin pale and cold. Emily's spirit would whisper eerie phrases in their ears, making their blood run cold. One student, Sarah, claimed Emily's ghost followed her home, haunting her dreams. Sarah's parents found her catatonic in bed, with Emily's name scribbled on the wall in blood. Teachers started quitting, and parents pulled their kids out of school. But one brave teacher, Ms. Jenkins, refused to give up. She believed Emily's spirit needed help finding peace. Ms. Jenkins researched Emily's life, trying to understand what kept her spirit trapped. She discovered Emily's love for art and music, and decided to hold a memorial ceremony in her honor. The day of the ceremony arrived, and the school was filled with Emily's artwork and her favorite music. Ms. Jenkins stood before the students, ready to pay tribute to Emily's memory. But as she began to speak, Emily's ghost appeared behind her, eyes blazing with a malevolent fury. The students screamed, and Ms. Jenkins turned to face Emily. In a voice that sent shivers down the spines of everyone present, Emily's ghost whispered, "I don't want to be remembered. I want to be alive." As the students watched in horror, Emily's ghost vanished, leaving behind a trail of destruction. The school was left in ruins, and Ms. Jenkins was never seen again. The town of Ravenswood was forever changed, and the legend of Emily's haunting lived on. Some say that on certain nights, when the moon is full and the wind is just right, you can still hear Emily's ghostly whispers echoing through the abandoned halls of Ravenswood Elementary. "I don't want to be remembered. I want to be alive." Years went by, and the school remained abandoned, a haunting monument to Emily's tragic fate. But the legend of her ghost lived on, passed down through generations of Ravenswood residents. People claimed to see Emily's ghostly figure wandering the empty halls, searching for something. Some said she was looking for her lost life, while others believed she was seeking revenge on the living. One stormy night, a group of brave teenagers decided to explore the abandoned school, hoping to catch a glimpse of Emily's ghost. They laughed and joked as they entered the school, but their merriment was short-lived. As they made their way deeper into the school, they stumbled upon a hidden room, filled with Emily's artwork and personal belongings. In the center of the room, they found a journal belonging to Emily. The journal revealed Emily's deepest fears and desires. She'd written about her struggles in school, her feelings of isolation, and her desire to be loved. But the final entry was the most chilling. "I've seen the darkness that lurks within these walls. It's waiting for me, and I know I'll soon be a part of it." The teenagers were frozen in terror, realizing that they disturbed Emily's resting place. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and Emily's ghost appeared before them. Her eyes were black as coal, and her skin was pale and cold. The teenagers tried to run, but their feet were rooted to the spot. Emily's ghost began to whisper, her voice a haunting melody that sent shivers down their spines. "I don't want to be remembered. I want to be alive." As the teenagers watched in horror, Emily's ghost began to change. Her eyes turned bright red, and her skin began to decay. The teenagers realized that they'd unleashed a malevolent force, one that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The next morning, The police found the teenagers catatonic in the abandoned school, their minds shattered by the horrors they'd witnessed. The school was sealed off, and the town of Ravenswood was left to pick up the pieces. The legend of Emily's haunting lived on, a cautionary tale about the dangers of meddling with forces beyond our understanding. And if you listen closely on certain nights, when the moon is full and the wind is just right, you can still hear Emily's ghostly whispers echoing through the abandoned halls of Ravenswood Elementary. I don't want to be remembered. I want to be alive. The Curse of Highway 66. The highway stretched out before them like a dark snake, winding its way through the desolate landscape. Rachel and Mike had been driving for hours, eager to reach their destination, a secluded cabin in the woods. As night began to fall, the GPS led them further and further away from civilization. The only sound was the hum of the engine and the soft rustle of the wind through the trees. Rachel yawned, feeling the weight of the long drive. How much farther? She asked Mike. According to the GPS, we've got about an hour to go, Mike replied, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. Rachel nodded, settling back into her seat. She closed her eyes, letting the rhythmic hum of the engine lull her into a state of relaxation. But her peace was short-lived. Mike slammed on the brakes, jolting Rachel awake. What's wrong? Rachel asked, her heart racing. I saw something, Mike replied, his voice low and serious. A figure, standing on the side of the road. Rachel peered into the darkness, but saw nothing. It was probably just a deer, she said, trying to reassure him. But Mike was insistent. I know what I saw, he said, and it was not a deer. As they continued driving, the atmosphere in the car grew increasingly tense. Rachel tried to distract Mike with conversation, but he was too focused on the road ahead. And then they saw it again. A figure, standing on the side of the road, watching them with cold, dead eyes. This time, Rachel saw it too, and she knew that they were in grave danger. The figure began to move towards them, its pace slow and deliberate. Mike floored it, speeding down the highway as fast as he could. But no matter how fast they went, the figure kept pace with them, always staying just out of reach. Rachel was terrified. She knew that they had to get off the highway, and fast. But Mike was frozen in fear, unable to take his eyes off the figure. As they sped down the highway, the darkness seemed to close in around them. The trees seemed to loom over the car, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching out to snatch them. Rachel's heart was racing, her breath coming in short gasps. She knew that they were running out of time. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure vanished. Mike slowed the car to a stop, his chest heaving with exertion. Rachel turned to him, her eyes wide with fear. What was that thing? She whispered. Mike shook his head. I don't know, he replied, but I think we're lucky to be alive. As they sat there in stunned silence, Rachel realized that they were not alone. The figure may have vanished, but she could feel its presence, watching them from the darkness. And then, the car's radio flickered to life, broadcasting a haunting message. You should not have taken this road. Rachel screamed as the radio went dead, plunging them into darkness. And when the lights flickered back on, Mike was gone. She was alone on the highway, with only the darkness for company. Rachel's heart was racing, her breath coming in short gasps. She knew that she had to get out of there, fast. She grabbed the keys and jumped out of the car, looking around frantically for Mike, but he was nowhere to be seen. The darkness seemed to close in around her, the trees looming over her like sentinels. Rachel knew that she was running out of time. And then she saw it, the figure, standing on the side of the road, watching her with cold, dead eyes. Rachel knew that she was doomed. The highway had become a nightmare, and she was trapped in its grasp. She tried to run, but her legs were frozen in fear. The figure began to move towards her, its pace slow and deliberate. Rachel's screams were drowned out by the sound of her own heartbeat, pounding in her ears like a drum. And then, everything went black. The next morning, police found Rachel's car, abandoned on the side of the highway. But Rachel was never seen again. Some say that on certain nights, when the moon is full and the highway is deserted, you can still hear Rachel's screams, echoing down the deserted highway.